Jesus said in John chapter 20, verse 29, "Blessed are they who have not seen, yet have believed." Well, today on CITAM Church Online, I'd like to begin talking about trusting God, and perhaps we'll be able to carve out a little series out of this. But I specifically want us to focus today on Gideon and the children of Israel, and to see how trusting God shouldn't be a last resort. Hey there, everybody. My name is Joyce Omondi, Waihiga. Welcome to CITAM Church Online. So we'll pick up this story from the book of Judges chapter 6, and between verse 1 to 6 is where we're really going to focus in. Here we see that God had delivered the children of Israel, of course, from Egypt. They had just had Deborah, who was a great judge over them. And in fact, chapter 5 ends with the line, "Then the land had peace for 40 years. So this was a good time. They had been oppressed, and God had set them free. They had been in bondage, and God had broken those yokes. And all he was asking of them was to love him, to obey him, and to commit to him. Literally, his only request of them, through all of these different acts of grace that he had bestowed upon them, was that they do not worship the idols of Canaan. But of course, these children of Israel did not obey. And in fact, again, they did not obey. Chapter 6, verse 1 begins with, "Again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord, and for 7 years he gave them over into the hands of the Midianites." I mean, can you imagine just God's frustration really at this point? And the truth is, we are often like these very children. We want to live the way we want, however we want, with whomever we want, doing anything and everything that is about us and not about him. And in many ways, we kind of take God's mercy for granted. We take his favor even for granted. But there comes a time where we will absolutely reap what we sow. All right. And imagine if God actually were to treat us the way that we treat him. And for me, I know that there are times that I'm unfaithful to him. It will take me a good minute to do that which he's asked me to do. I'll try and negotiate my way out of it, especially if it's something that seems hard. But the children of Israel really should be a reminder to us today to think, whoa, what would it be like if God were to actually treat us the way we treat him? And in verse 2 to 6, we see that the Israelites literally hit rock bottom. I mean, these Midianites were no joke. They completely plundered them and ravaged them, is what the scripture says. I mean, they even went and tried to hide in caves and build up their own shelters. But the camels, the scripture says, of the Midianites were immeasurable. Like, they were so many, and every time these guys would come, scripture says that they did not spare a living thing for Israel, neither sheep nor cattle nor donkeys. And the Midians so impoverished the Israelites that eventually then they did actually cry out to the Lord. But the truth about this is, all of that could possibly have been avoided if they had just turned to God in the first place, right? And so our lesson today is just that turning to God shouldn't be a last minute resort. It shouldn't be our final options. When we've gone and tried to exhaust everything else is when now we come running to God and to Calvary. In fact, verse 2 there talks about, like I mentioned, because the power of Midian was so oppressive, the Israelites prepared shelters for themselves in mountain clefts caves, and strongholds. How many times do we do the same thing? Instead of running to God, we decide to do and figure out our own solutions. We want to fix our own problems. We think we know it all. But when that crashes and burns and fails, all of a sudden we remember our God in heaven, our Father in heaven, and then choose to run to Him. God desires to lead us through every decision, to guide us through every single day, to be with us as we consider whether to go right or whether to go left. That is the essence of the kind of relationship that He desires with us. And so let's not wait until we are at the absolute end of our rope to remember, that He is there. Let's not wait until we've absolutely messed everything up is when we want to call upon Him. God is literally waiting upon us to reach out to Him and call upon His name. So I hope that this has encouraged you today. What is your trust journey like with God? Are you the type of person who kind of tries to fix everything on your own? You've gone all sorts of roundabouts, tried to come up with your own solutions, but in the end, you still come up short. Let's make trusting God a priority and not our last minute resort. I'd love to hear from you. You can contact us at CITAM Church Online. Be sure as well to subscribe to this YouTube channel. And until next time, God bless you and have a wonderful week ahead. Bye.